Well, good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Jenny Whitener. I'm the CEO of Bridge Innovate, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to our session today, Building Entrepreneurial Communities. We're going to be joined by our guest speaker in just a bit, but until then, I'm going to ask you to first say hello and meet each other, all of those who are engaged in the program today. If you would just join me in the chat, go to the chat, introduce yourself, your name, and your organization. We would love to know that you are here. So yeah, if you would just do that for me, thanks so much. So I see folks coming in the chat. John, nice to see you. Welcome from Chicago. I hope it's warmer there than it was a few days ago. Heather, thank you so much for being here from the Boulevard Project. Nice to see you. Others coming in. Jonathan, fantastic entrepreneur. Thank you so much for being here. Jeff, also an entrepreneur. I see a theme here, guys. Fantastic. Good to see all of you today. So again, if you're just joining us for today's program, Building Entrepreneurial Communities, I would invite you to get to know each other and join us first in the chat by saying hello, your name and your organization. And throughout today's program, feel free to join in the chat. So as we get started today, I want to first start by just saying welcome to the Inspire series. Bridge Innovate hosts the Inspire series, where we invite exciting guests to share their stories of inspiration around innovation, leadership, and change. And today we have an exciting speaker from Prairie, a small business development center, and she'll be joining us in just a bit. So thanks for joining us today. I want to start by giving you a bit of an overview of the program that Jasmine and I worked on together. We call it the Entrepreneurial Growth Sprint. And this is a program where we put together a cohort of entrepreneurs using Zoom, like we're doing today, and our platform Sprint Base to take a group of entrepreneurs through a growth sprint. There are 6 sessions. They average about an hour and a half each. They include both synchronous, virtual programs for about an hour and a half, and then some asynchronous assignments that they have to do as well. One of the components that you'll see in the program overview here is that each of the sessions focus on slightly different things. You'll see that it's focused on ultimately delivering a business model canvas for their entrepreneurial launch business or their entrepreneurial business, but it fuses in elements of innovation and design thinking along the way. So you'll see at the beginning, we look at things like the overall strategy canvas that we'll be using. We ask them to do an asset map. We want to make sure that they're maximizing all the assets in their community and in their entrepreneurial network. And we also spend some time looking at external trends, all the influencers that are impacting their business. We work together as a cohort to do that, and then they have some assignments afterwards. Session 2 is really beginning to bring in design thinking, the human-centered perspective. So we're asking them to look at what customers are saying. What are your clients telling you about ease of doing business around your products and services? And then section 3 is really taking the insights from that customer base and from that research, forming opportunities to brainstorm. And in session 4, we're creating new prototypes to really improve and enhance the entrepreneurial business and to scale them. So in session 5, we're beginning to, look at the and in that component, when we give each other feedback on the prototypes, really prepare them to do their 30, 60, 90-day plan to launch. So the entire program, again, conducted virtually, 6 sessions. It's intended for entrepreneurs who are ready to explore their business, put together an enhanced growth strategy using the components of strategic planning and design thinking and innovation, all coming together in one program. So I'm going to stop there and just see, this was the program that we did with Jasmine, some of the outputs that we were looking for from that program. Let me hear from you in the chat if you have any questions. Are you guys currently, if you're entrepreneurs, do you have a strategy document? Let me just ask that question first. As entrepreneurs, how many of you you can just say yes, no, yes, no. In the chat, let me know if you're an entrepreneur, do you have a formal strategic plan? or you are an entrepreneur that shoots from the hip? What is it? So yes or no, do you have a formal strategic plan? Let me know what's going on with your organization. So give you a chance. Okay. So some notes coming in. And one of the things that I think is important for entrepreneurs is often our work is so dynamic. Things are changing so rapidly. Some folks would say, is it really worth it to go through the entire strategic planning process? And we think the entrepreneurial growth sprint is just about right amount of time, because you don't want to spend months and months and months on this, but you do need a guide for you and your staff and your investors to say, this is our strategy, this is how we plan to go to market, and this is how we'll win. And we use the business model canvas, which is a single frame. It's simple, it's easy to update because entrepreneurial business is agile. And those are all the things that we use in that process. Okay, so I see some of you have them, some of you are using hybrids, and some do not. Okay, so I would encourage you to think about it. You can actually go to strategizer.com and look at Austin Aldenhauer's work and look at the business model canvas. There are a lot of free resources there. They're outstanding. We use a lot of those. So when we were working with Jasmine with Prairie View, A&M, Small Business Development Center, they had several goals for their program. They wanted to make sure that their entrepreneurs learned design thinking and they were able to apply the human-centered methodology. They wanted to make sure that in this humanness, this human-centered analysis, they got really clear about their customers' needs and pain points. And that was the fuel. That's the fuel to help them grow and strategize their business. They wanted to also build innovation leadership skills and to meet disruptive challenges head on. So build that skill set that when disruption comes, how do I quickly identify the disruption, ideate, prototype solutions, and then adjust my business so that I can stay agile and adapt along the way. They wanted to build the skills of creating asset maps, empathy maps, some of the tools that we use in the entrepreneurial growth sprint. And then of course, they all got a digital badge. All right, so let's keep going. The challenge that Prairie View looked at was how might we enable local entrepreneurs to grow their businesses and broaden inclusive community impact. So one of the objectives that Jasmine brought to this initiative as the sponsor from the Small Business Development Center is she wanted to focus on local entrepreneurs, but she also wanted them to look at being inclusive. How do we broaden their relationship with the suppliers? How do we broaden relationships with their customers so that we're really truly living this inclusive community that she had the vision for? So it's very powerful. We go into the next slide, you can see some of the tools that we use in the program. So you'll see, that design thinking component coming in where they blended design thinking and strategy written up in Harvard Business Review. The asset map, we get them to really think about all the assets that can really power them as an entrepreneurial business and to brainstorm those. And we share because many times people will identify assets that others don't. And then here's the strategy canvas. Very simple. It starts in the middle where you put your strategy value proposition, everything on the right, customers, external trends, marketing, being your externally facing activities, everything on the left of the value proposition being the internal focus of assets, activities, and resources. And then the bottom, of course, the cost to launch the strategy and your revenue objectives and targets. So very simple canvas, easy for entrepreneurs to keep updated and to have it be dynamic. You can see the empathy map that we use to kind of gather customer perspective and some of the brainstorming tools that we use from Jake Knapp's Google Sprint methodology, the Crazy Eights. If you haven't done that, 8 ideas in 8 minutes, it's quite a rush, especially if you like ideation. And then we get them to build out a user-centric storyboard. So how would the user experience that idea? All good tools that they can use very quickly with their own teams and with their contract staff to mobilize new ideas in their business. And finally, just like all good programs, an action plan about how they'll take the learning and the strategy forward. And then ultimately an elevator pitch, right? So if you're pitching it to your staff or you're pitching it to your customers, how are we going to go about doing that? Take a look on the next slide at some of the output. They had a small entrepreneurial cohort. I think there were 6 entrepreneurs in the program that came together, and look at what they accomplished. 49 observations, 24 insights, 11 how might we opportunities explored across their businesses, 44 ideas, 12 prototypes, and a lot of implementation plans and variations of those implementation plans. So a lot of good work by that cohort in the entrepreneurial growth strength. So I'm excited. It looks like Jasmine has now joined us. So I'm excited to introduce to you Jasmin Espy. Jasmine is the director at Prairie View A&M University Small Business Development Center. Jasmine has been an entrepreneur herself, bringing decades of experience in running her own business, and now in a leadership role with Prairie View's Small Business Development Center. She champions and coaches entrepreneurs across their region. We're thankful for our partnership with her and having had a chance to team up with her and bring her vision to life there in Texas. Jasmine, say hello to the group.
Hi. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
And let me know when you want me to start, Jenny.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to go to the next slide. I'd like for you to tell everybody a little bit about Prairie View as we get going today.
Okay. All right. Prairie View is one of the second oldest public institutions in Texas. It is considered an historically Black college and university, and it has about 9,000 students right now in terms of its enrollment. And it's doing quite well in terms of diversifying beyond just African-American students. So they've got a growing population of Hispanic students and a lot of international students as well.
So share with us a bit more on the next slide, specifically about the Small Business Development Center, Jasmine.
Okay. The Small Business Development Center at Prairie View was established in 2014, and it is a part of a larger network. The American Business Development Centers have over 1,000 different centers. Prairie View is located out of U of H, which is the Texas Gulf Coast Center. And we provide free business advising and training. And we cover anything from, that might be on another slide. Do you think, Jenny? In terms of the consulting and the training.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, just continue on and we'll go to
that.
Okay.
So we offer business consulting for businesses that are either in a pre-venture, just starting out with a concept, startups. We do have some businesses that have been probably in business about 3 years or so, and we don't have any larger small businesses at this time. And that range can vary. It can be, up to 500 employees for a particular type of industry. So there are different standards that one would look to define yourself as a small business.
Okay. Fantastic. So we're going to come off of screen share, Jasmine, just so that we can have a conversation, because it's been amazing teaming up with you to help you continue with your vision around growing minority-owned small businesses there in the region. Tell people a little bit about your vision. What do you think are the major challenges today for entrepreneurs, and how are you guys responding?
Well, small businesses have been hit pretty hard since COVID started. And the number of minority businesses in particular have been severely impacted. Lots of loss there, and some still struggling to understand how they're going to continue. So small businesses have been faced with pandemics and really not being prepared. They weren't in a position on a large scale to work remotely. They didn't really have digital access. And because of the economic shifts that are starting to take place now, we're seeing inflation raising. We are concerned about the number of businesses that will be able to manage to either get access to capital, cash flow concerns. So our small businesses are very, very challenged right now, not only in terms of trying to deal with, what's going on with the pandemic and other issues, but, not even able to really think about what they can do for their own business outside of just survival.
Right. Good point. And I think some of the things you touched on, like, access to capital, cash flow, all those types of things really impact small business. In fact, when you look at the data, one of the number one reasons small businesses fail is cash flow. So, help the audience, if some of them are not aware, help the audience understand, are there unique needs to minority-owned businesses in general? I mean, from your experience, are there things that we need to be aware of there?
Yes. I think if you look at the minority population, just where they sit globally, and particularly in the United States, their ability to have a source of income, wealth, in terms of equity, is not the same when you look at non-minorities. And so they are, from the very beginning, they don't have all the assets to lay out a foundation that's going to help them proceed. I mean, there are a lot of times with our minority businesses, you could have a taqueria, you could have, a small delivery service on your own, barbershop. Now that's a little bit bigger, but when they're just working on a cash flow, cash in, cash out, and really aren't laying a foundation to look at their accounting systems, getting access to market research, they just appear to not have as many tools for them to understand, when you're in business, what that really looks like. And then you have another set of small businesses that may not ever want to do more than just, taquerias or something like that. So we always have to take that into consideration when we're dealing with small businesses.
Good point. A good point. And I know when we teamed up to do this design for you, this entrepreneurial growth sprint, you were talking about the fact that you wanted to make sure that each entrepreneur was really able to glean something specific for them. You didn't want it to be an off-the-shelf program. Talk to me about your vision around what I call authenticity, things that are real for entrepreneurs, and why, if you're going to engage in a program like this, it has to ensure that it's aligned to something very personal for the entrepreneur.
Yes. Authenticity is a very important concept. And I don't know if we've done a good job of really aligning that with just business ownership and what that really means. If I'll take myself, for instance, if I've grown up and I've not dealt well with certain issues, circumstances, my tolerance and stress levels may not exhibit the type of skills necessary to run a particular type of business. So it's very important that if you're dealing with small business owners, you take time to really understand who they are authentically. Let them understand that we're not judging. Everybody's authenticity is unique to them. But if you don't understand this basis, the inner workings of who they are, then I don't think you're really prepared to move them forward and just deal with the external pieces of, doing a business, putting all the processes, outlines, all of that. You have to really take into consideration who you're dealing with. And we want them to know that the more authentic they are, the better they are at understanding what they want and what they need within that business, so that they can really identify and attract the right type of customers. So,
yeah, I think that was really important. I remember when we were going through the asset mapping, and the way that we worked together to design this program is that each entrepreneur would do that. And there were some breakouts where they would have a design thinking facilitator with them, or they would be in smaller groups. And I felt like there was an opening up of vulnerability, and people just began to say, well, these are the things that I'm really strong at, or here are the things that I have as assets, but I really don't know where to go for this, or I'm not really versed in that. And I think that level of openness that we're able to create in that cohort created a sense of trust and community that people could just put it out there, and then also helped us to quickly address it. Okay, well, here's some resources that you can go to, or let me give you a little insight of some tips here or there. Made it very personalized, I think, for each of the entrepreneurs that were engaged in the process.
Yes, I definitely agree. I have seen such overwhelming difference in how they're approaching solving their problems, looking to expand. It's incredible. Um, certainly, there are others. The beauty of having a group like that is it doesn't matter what level you come in at. You're all starting at a point working together, and it's been very inspiring to see the benefits of how they have taken accountability around what they what their mission was, or just learning about how important it is to be an entrepreneur, small business owner in a community, and they've taken that on fairly strongly. I mean, I've got
Right.
several clients using that, and I'll talk maybe a little bit more about some examples. But I
Sure.
think one of the biggest things is small business owners get overwhelmed with the day-to-day operations of the business. They're doing it all sometimes, and they don't have time to really sit down and try to figure out how do I approach it. And I think when they actually saw that 6-step sprint and the one pager was like, oh yes, I can do it. You don't
Right.
necessarily miss any of
Right.
the tips
Yeah.
or some of the tools, but it was very good. Yeah.
I do think that we were able to bite size in a way that the flurry and the chaos and the overall like commitment that it takes to be an entrepreneur, that when you're trying to throw in this strategic planning process, that
Mhm.
by bite sizing it and making it manageable, I mean, I remember some of the feedback from the participants was like, I didn't know if I was going to like this or not, but they were all in, right? So we almost had to
All
say,
in.
look, go away. The program's over. We have to come back next week,
I know.
kind of thing. So it was really pretty fun. Can you talk about you? One of the things that was important to you when we launched this was bringing in the innovation and the design thinking and fusing that into a traditional strategy process. Can you talk more about your vision there and like why that was important?
Yes. There are times, if I'm understanding the question correctly, there are times when clients are, as we said, overwhelmed, and they don't take the time to bite size it. They look at like the elephant as opposed to just the trunk, right? And what I wanted them to know that process, and what was important for me through your program, was to help them understand that this is a step and a tool that you can use just like you would from your accounting, your marketing, to involve this innovative design as you develop strategic plans, shifts in the product, shifts in the service. So I also think that it provided them enough control and confidence that they could at least step into a session about where they want it to go. And that's very important. Many times, I mean, when you talk, I have about 65% nascent businesses. So either never been in business or very new. They don't have a clue where to start and how to really step themselves into a strategic plan. So this tool was very good.
Right. And I think that one of the things I observed was that um, many times as an entrepreneur, you feel quite alone, especially at the leadership level, that you're at the helm and you don't have a lot of folks to interact with, exploring some of the challenges that you have or some of the pressures that are there. And one of the things I saw when we put them into breakouts to brainstorm together, they were learning from each other.
Mhm.
And I think it was very powerful for another entrepreneur to share an idea about their business, right? That,
Yeah.
you would have somebody that was in farming and then somebody else was in the restaurant business or somebody else that's in the delivery business or whatever. But there were synergies and they began to see that getting external perspective and sort of having these short brainstorming efforts, how it helped them unlock these new opportunities. And then, like you said, hopefully the toolkit that they walked away with was something they could just go to a group of customers and come up with ideas, or go to some suppliers, or have a brainstorm around the family dinner table, because many
Yeah.
entrepreneurial ventures are, in fact, a family business. So these are easy tools to apply.
It is. And I think it's a paradigm shift. When you start thinking about the typical ways to network, you have different groups, different associations. A lot of people are saying, I'm not getting enough out of there. I may not be able to do business with that person. But this was much more relevant and tangible in terms of seeing themselves a part of an entrepreneur community that they could use differently to test ideas out and to maybe collaborate together. And it's really spawned some really neat ideas going forward in these counties.
Good. Can you share? I know that we're getting close on time, but a couple of things I want to make sure we hear from you. One is, can you share some examples of things that came out of the entrepreneurial growth sprint? And then also I want to make sure we get your guidance that if others are looking at launching a program similar to this, any suggestions of guidance?
Sure. Um, we had just great engagement. I mean, the group was small enough too, I think sometimes to get into it a little bit more. But some of the examples that came out of this was really understanding that they had some tools that they could really use quickly, in terms of their insights and coming up with, the strategy canvas. So some of the things that I felt really overwhelmed with joy about was one entrepreneur has a hay company, and during this exercise he actually came up with a brand new product, a new service that he had never even thought about. And so he is on his way to really looking at engaging something different, for his business after 6 sessions. Then we have a micro farmer who was really struggling with how to put his view or vision into a step or a process. He and I now have worked through that strategy canvas. It's listed. Trial is going to be launched in February. And uniquely enough, from that session, he's going to be working with the delivery driver to help him move that product into a consumer offering. And so really excited about that also. And then the last thing is we have an organization who is an economic development partner in the Waller County. And that participant just really found great grounding on how to really look at her small business connections and is working through a trusted partner or bridge arrangement. And the best thing yet, we're going to be doing the State of the Small Business in Waller County in December of next year. So we're really opening it up. We're expanding it beyond this to open it up to small businesses to learn more, and I'll be talking with you again about this opportunity. But we are going to expand it and really help them understand the importance of developing that small business community.
Mm-hmm. Good, good. So I know there are a number of entrepreneurs on here. So any kind of wrap up words of advice for them, either if they're coaching others in small business or for their own small business themselves?
Okay, one thing that I would say is stay on the edge with new ideas and innovation. I really think it is a critical element in moving your business either to sustainability or growth. Okay, as well as succession. I think you could use this also if you're looking at exiting the business using these tools. Embrace authenticity in each of the tools or how you also want to conduct either your business or if you're coaching someone else. And thirdly, understand that small businesses have their unique cadence, and with that, create a uniqueness about that relationship. And while you want to do one-to-one, I think embedding a group session, maybe around industry, would be key as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, it has been amazing partnering with you. Thank you for all your leadership in small business, especially with minority-owned small businesses and making a difference there every day. Any final questions from the audience? We have just another minute left. Anything that anyone has a quick question about? Awesome session. All right, Glenda saying thank you so much.
Thank you,
I want to
Glenda.
recognize Glenda Hicks, who is the project manager for the Prairie View session. Thank you, Glenda, for being here today as well. So we have more things coming up at Bridge Innovate in our Inspire series. If you want to test drive the digital studio that we use with Jasmine to do the entrepreneurial growth sprint or any of our design and innovation programs, join us on February 3rd for that test drive. We're also hearing from Professor Owen Foster, really well-founded research gentleman, former teacher at SCAD, on shifting the perspective, how to build innovation capacity in teams. And then Lamarck Clay, a leadership coach, coming in, talking about how to lead in the time of uncertainty and polarization in February. And then the value proposition canvas. If you're a small business, you got to be at Hannah's session. Build out the value proposition for your business. Jasmine, thank you for your leadership in our community. Thank you for your gracious time today and your story. And we wish you a great new year. And thanks everybody for joining. We hope to see you again on another Bridge Innovate Inspire series soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.